What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Blood on the Razor Wire TV, where you already know we bring it to you real and we bring it to you raw. Bringing on a brother that did over 20 years in federal prison, Duke boy. I'm going to let you tell the people who you are, tell them where you're from, and we're going to talk about you going to the Smooth program, some of the stuff that you've been through, some of the things that you've seen, and what it's like, man, to be locked in a cell, man, 24 hours a day, 23 hours a day, 7 days a week. So let's get into it, man. Tell the people who you are, where you're from, and let's rock.
Yeah, man, it's Duke boy, you know what I'm saying? From Spartanburg, South Carolina, yeah, I did 22 years in federal prison, you know what I'm saying? And it's not nothing that I would want anybody to go through. It's like, it's a world, it's a whole other world, within the world.
Let's talk about how you ended up in federal prison. What did you go to federal prison for?
Well, back in the early 90s, I had a couple of drug cases, crack cocaine. That's when crack cocaine, after the 80s, on to the 90s, leading up to the 2000s, that's when everybody was selling crack at that time. So I sold crack and I got into armed robbery. I used to, did a couple of bank robberies and a couple of other robberies, and that's what landed me in federal prison. But it wasn't the robberies and the drugs, it was the guns. The guns itself carried, they stacked the guns on me. They gave me an additional 25-year sentence, And at that time, that's what the law was up until 2020 when President Donald Trump, he changed the law and called the CARE Act. One of the CARE Acts. I got out under compassionate release.
That was the First Step Act, right?
The First Step Act. That's what it was. The First Step Act. Yes. So that's how I ended up getting out of prison. Otherwise, I would have been in there until 2031.
It's a long time, brother.
Yeah, most definitely, man. It's a blessing, man, because like you say you've been to Pollock and Big Sandy and one of them prisons where it was just crazy, where a lot of people was dying. Good men was dying back there, man. And it's like, almost like we was at war back there, you know what I'm saying? So it's a blessing to be out here, man, having the opportunity like what we have here with your platform, man, where I can, let my voice be heard and let others hear my story, you know what I'm saying? And hopefully it will do some justice.
Hopefully someone will listen, and even if it makes one person make the right decision, it's all worth it. Let me ask you this. Let's go into the streets of South Carolina. How old were you when you first got into the crack game?
I was 13, man. I was 13 years old. And, it was something, when I looked around the neighborhoods where I lived, it was like, it was the normal. It was normal for people to get into selling crack at that time. It was like crack dealers, the big drug dealers was like our role models. Like when we was young, 13, 14 years old, we looked up to them. You know what I mean? Like they was our role models. And we was like, well, when we grew up, because we see the fancy cars, we see all the jewelry, we see all the women that's, that comes with it. And we was like, man, that's what I want. And it was attractive. You know what I mean? And that's where it all started with the street life for me.
What was your household like? Was like my father was drug addicted, when I turned to the streets and I had a crack case, I had 2 stacked 924C counts, 40-year federal mandatory minimum. But what was your life like at your house?
Man, I grew up, man, my grandmother on my father's side raised me along with my aunts and uncles. I had both of my uncles, Marion and Martin, and my aunt Margaret. They all pulled together to raise me. But my mother and my father, they was on the outs, going through all kind of situations. I was so young, and I'm still hearing bits and pieces of those stories right now. I don't have it fully, yet, as far as to how I fell in my grandmother's home and they raised me. So the jury's still out. But like I said, I was raised by my grandmother, my aunts and uncles, man, and they pulled together, man. They did a decent job. I just chose to take a lot of the wrong, um, start to do the wrong things in life. It was me. It wasn't my upbringing. It was me making choices, man, and seeing that life where I was like, that's what I want, you know. And I felt like there was an easy way for me to um, better myself financially, you know. So that's how that, all started, man, in the drugs, selling drugs. And like I said, it was the early 90s, man, like 91, 92, on up to up until before I started committing armed robberies.
You're committing armed robberies. You end up in prison, pretty much for the armed robberies, right?
Right, right.
Who do you rob?
Exactly.
Who are you robbing? Drug dealers, businesses? Who you robbing?
Well, yeah, drug, whatever, anybody. I was like,
There you go.
I always was a mastermind. I always thought things through, man. And if I felt like it was worth it, I'll take that chance, And yeah, I robbed drug dealers, I robbed banks, I robbed stores, I robbed whatever, you know.
You said something. You said something specific there, where you said you thought things through. Did you ever sit back and think, well, if they catch me, I'll be going to federal prison for 30, 40 years? Do you ever think about that part?
Well, when you're young, man, and that's why I look at the youth today now, and I see how they act and how they think and how they move, and I see myself in a lot of them, man. And I'll be like, I used to think the way that they think, at that time when you're in your early teens, you don't think about a lot of the consequences of your actions. It's like sometimes for most, teens, you think about what you can get at that time, how you can make progress, or just the money, and it blinds you. It's a blind. It's like you're in the fog, and you lost. You're trying to figure things out, and so the consequences of your actions, it kind of it doesn't outweigh in your mind what you're trying to accomplish in that spur of moment.
Let me ask you this. You end up getting sentenced. Tell the people what your actual sentence. You did 22 years, but what was your actual sentence?
My actual sentence was 39 years. 39 years.
39 years. And a lot of people don't understand this. That's based off of one gun was 5 years. The second gun is 25 years. So if you're selling drugs, they bust a house, you're not there. They might start a conspiracy charge, right? Then they bust another house a month later and they find another gun. What people didn't realize is that now you got 5 for that first gun, 25 for that second, plus whatever you're going to get for the drug conspiracy, right?
Exactly.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Let me say this, right? So that people can, I want these youngsters to understand this. Same thing goes for a robbery. You do a robbery, they don't catch you, you get away, but they know it's you. They're looking for you. You do another robbery. So now you can have that same gun. It don't have to be different guns. Let's say you robbed the first bank with a 9, and then you robbed the second bank a week later with that same exact 9mm. Now that's 30 years, right?
Right.
I want that to resonate with some of these folks. How old were you at the time?
At the time, man, I had just turned 19 years old, and I was still thinking like a teen, you know what I mean? And the streets grab a hold of you, man, and you don't want to let go, and the streets don't want to let go of you. But 19 years old, that's when I entered the federal prison system. Didn't know what to expect, and I'm appreciative to all of the older heads that kind of brought me up to speed and helped me to, helped me to learn about prison, because nobody in society can teach you about anything about prison. There's no schools out in society that can teach you about prison, how prison is going to be, what you're going to have to encounter, how you're going to deal with it. You have to learn this stuff on your own, because everybody, you got to get in there and stand on your own 2 feet like a man. And the only people that are going to teach you is the people that choose to surround themselves with you and, kind of break bread, knowledge wise with you in order so you can know how to bid and do your time. And it's all on you how you come out of there. You know what I'm saying?
Dude,
So
let me
it's
go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, it's kind of it's deep, man, and you know for yourself, man, because you did 18 years yourself. So at some of the worstest prisons, like you've probably been some of the worstest ones that I've been to, you know, and
Well, this is what we're going to do today because you talked about there ain't no one out here that could teach you about prison. You got to learn it on your own. But we're going to teach the people today. How's that sound?
that sounds great, man.
We're going to motivate. We're going to motivate some people to do the right thing, man, based off the consequences, right? And I think one of the major factors of me not going back to prison, it wasn't, man, honestly, it wasn't just doing the time. It wasn't about missing your family. It wasn't about loneliness. I mean, that played a factor. But really what it was about was the violence that I seen, the violence that I experienced. And I said, I don't never want to live like that ever again. You feel me on that?
Most definitely. Most definitely.
So let's talk about this. You're 19 years old. We're going to teach the people something today. You're 19 years old. Tell these 19-year-olds what it feels like to get sentenced to 39 years. These people look at their little calendar, they look at their watch, and they say, you know what? You start adding stuff up. Say, man, I'm 19, 39. Man, I'd probably be going home when I'm about 68. What did that feel like at 19 years old?
Well, I remember, man, when that judge gave me, because in the federal system, they give you time in months, right? So at first, it didn't dawn on me how many years it was when they gave it to me. I was thinking, I'm walking outside the courtroom, with my belly chains on and ankle bracelets, and I'm walking in that red jumpsuit, and I'm like, all right, I'm calculating into my mind, how many years is that right there? So I'm adding it up. I guess we get on the elevator. I'm like, all right, we get downstairs. When we get downstairs in the elevator, before we get onto the little the transport bus, that's when I figured it out. I was like, man, I said, man, them people they really sucked it to me, man. But it felt like you feel like it's just a complete loss. You feel pain and hurt, and as a male or a man or teen, we handle stress and loss different, than women, and it was hurt. I was hurt. I was completely hurt by it, man. I felt, especially due to the gun laws being that I received 32 years, 30 years, based upon one 357 handgun. And I see guys, the youngsters out here running around right now, don't have a license to carry a concealed weapon, and they have these assault rifles with these extended clips and these drums attached to them with all these bullets. I met a guy that was in prison that got caught with 7 bullets in his pocket, and they gave him 1 year for every bullet, 7 years. So, and I say to myself, man, the youngsters, they have to wake up, man, because they will give you for one. If you have a silencer, I met a guy that had a potato, on the end of his 38, and they turned that potato into a silencer and gave him 30 years. So, people just have to wake up, man. It's not a game. They will throw your life away and won't care no 1 second about it.
Let's talk a little bit about prison. What was the first prison you went to?
The first prison I went to, man, was FCI Edgefield in South Carolina, and I was there for 2 years. Was it 2000 and 2001? Right after the September 11th attacks, that's when they transferred me up out of there, because actually the FCI, I was supposed to have went to a penitentiary initially in the beginning, but they had in the federal system, they have a point system, and I didn't have a lot of I didn't commit a lot of violent crimes, so I slipped through the cracks to get inside of a medium security prison. That's why I went to FCI Edgefield. But after those attacks, I guess they changed the point system around, and that's when I was sent to the penitentiary after those 2 years of being at FCI Edgefield.
So they send you to the
But
big leagues. You're a young man, 21 years old, 22, and they say, you know what? You've been enjoying the FCI. You've been doing the right thing. But you know what? We're going to bump up your points and send you over to a maximum security prison with real killers, real prisoners, and plenty of violence, right?
most definitely, man. And I'm telling about I was like, man, because you had guys that they was doing that too. They was trying to stop it, and once they make up their mind to do something, man, you out of there. So I was saying to myself, man, I've been chilling out. I've been out the way. I've been, relaxing. I was working on fighting on my case. That's why I first started learning how to, learn law work. First it was real foreign. It's like looking at reading a foreign language when you was first trying to learn law work. So, but when they said, man, you going to a penitentiary, and I was like, man, what did I do? Beyond, my crime, why are you sending me to a penitentiary? And it was like, well, the point system changed, you know what I'm saying? And, this point system they have created within the Federal Bureau of Prisons, they can change it at any time. It's nothing but a policy that groups of boards of people get together and they make changes. And these changes, a lot of the times, affect your life on a negative aspect. So, it gets crazy, man. You no longer have control over your life. Everything is at the control of someone else making a decision at a certain board. Based upon how you live your life while you're inside that abnormal environment in prison.
No doubt. So let's talk about this. What's the first penitentiary you go to?
It was USP Lee County in Virginia.
Were you worried that you were going? Were you worried that you were going to a pen? Were you like, damn, bro, I don't want to go to no pen. I heard stories.
Well, I'm kind of rough. I was kind of rough around the edges at that time. So I wasn't worried as far as anything happening to me. But at the same time, I was like, I know I was going to be heading to, because I had heard stories through other roommates, you know what I mean, and other people that had already been to the penitentiary before, and they had done chilled out, and they got older, and they were sent to a FCI. They was like coming down on the downhill, and I'm going on the uphill, going to a penitentiary, and I was like, and I remember those stories, and I was like, all right, so now it was good that I heard those stories because now I know how to approach, going to a penitentiary. So I had a little bit of knowledge, you know what I mean, and it worked. It worked in my favor. And so when I gets there, and at this time, man, that's when I really got to learning about everything being sectioned off because in the FCI, everything is more chill and laid back. You walk around in your shower shoes, and everybody's walking around laughing, and it's like a fun type of thing, at that time. But the penitentiary, you walk around, when they pop them doors early in the morning, 5:30, close to 6 o'clock, you better be suited and booted, because anything liable to happen because anybody can do anything. Your homeboys can do something, and people will come and get you early in the morning while you in your bed laying down asleep. So I learned that, and then you gotta have no matter you have cars, everything is sectioned off. You have even the Christians, they have their own car consists of the group of people that you surround yourself with. So that's what I mean by cars. The Christians have their own car, the Muslims have their own car, the white boys have their own car. It's like the Bloods, the Crips, the GDs, they all have their own individual cars. All of the gang members, the Mexican gangs, everybody have their own little group of people that they.
What car did you run? What car did you run with? The Dirty South?
I was with the Dirty South when when you go on the West Coast, that's what it's like the Dirty South. All the whole South stick together, like Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Atlanta, South Carolina, North Carolina. All the southern states, they all go together on the West Coast when I was in Atwater, California. But in Lee County in Virginia, I got there, and it was only the South Carolina and the North Carolina car that ran together. You know what I'm saying? So I only had to deal with those individuals in from South Carolina and North Carolina, as opposed to being on the West Coast and have to deal with the whole southern states. It's better when you the limited people that you have to deal with is better. you know. But it was yeah, go ahead.
Let's talk about some of your experiences in prison, right? What are some of the worst things you've seen happen in federal prison?
Man, the stabbings, man. The stabbings and the murders, man. That and the fights you can deal with that. But when you see people, man, and one time I don't want to go too far out there as far as jumping around with other prisons.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna say the stories and then we'll I guess we can kind of go back or whatever. But Pollock, they called it Bloody Pollock, and I'm not sure what I was there from 2007 to the end of 2010, and I went to the SMOOth program after that. So, but when I was there, one of my homeboys got killed, named Bullock from Charlotte, North Carolina, and he got there. He was at Lee County with me. But when he got down there, I was trying to get him to be with us. Like, man, but he was like, no, I'm not trying to be with the homeboys from Carolina, man. I'm not trying to be with the homeboys from Carolina. I'm gonna do my 5%er thing, 5%er, I'm gonna do that. And I'm like, man, okay, man, but them guys, I'm telling you right now, them guys, man, they ain't what you think they is. Long story short, about 4 months later, he died. And the same 5% brother that was over that like the 5% of group, he was the one that killed him. You know what I'm saying? Killed him right in front of the Sally Port inside the unit that I live in. You know what I'm saying? I looked out the little window and seen him laying there. You know what I'm saying? And the door closed and they was called to hit the deuces and they told everybody to go to their cell and everything. But that's who killed him. The guy, the 5%er guy.
Why did he kill him?
That was killed, stabbed him right, like he punctured his lungs, stabbed him right around, almost stabbed him in the heart. Punctured his lungs, man, and he died right there in the cellar floor.
Why did he stab him? I mean, what was the beef over?
They was beefing. I guess the guy, from what I heard, the guy they had a little, whatever, it was like something personal between them. But long story short, from what I heard was, the guy didn't want Bullock to be inside the group no more. He was like, whatever happened between them, he was like, man, he was just trying to like get him out of the group. And he didn't want him sitting at the table no more either, because you gotta, everybody got their own tables that they sit at. And Bullock just wasn't trying to go for none of it, from what I heard, and things just kind of escalated, and that was the results from it. You know what I mean? But I tried my best to get him with the Carolina car because I had a lot of pull at that time. You know what I mean? I was kind of hot-headed, and people kind of put me in a little position where I was kind of like head of security at that time. I was the guy that, the go-to guy. You know what I mean? And so he just wouldn't. And I felt like if he would have came over and dealt with us, his homeboys from Carolina, he probably would still be alive today.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You talk about being the head of security for the car, and usually that entails you getting people together if something has to happen, hiding the knives. Everybody's got a position to play in there. You ever have to stab anybody in federal prison?
Yeah, I got a couple of write-ups, man. I stabbed like 3 people up there back there, man. But 2 was at Pollock and 1 was in California, man. And it was like, there were 4 situations though, man. One guy came and tried to stab me. I was in lockup, like in California. Yeah. I was in lockup, man, and we had a few words. He was from Asheville, North Carolina, man, and I'm not gonna say his name, but he came and tried to stab me, man, and I had a knife on me, and I stabbed him up inside. We was in the cage, man. We was looking like animals up in the cage, man, So, and I never prided myself for committing violent acts, but when my hand is forced, when I was in that environment, then I had to do what I had to do. You know what I'm saying? Now there was one instance where I took offense before. What you want to call it, bomb first before somebody come and get you, because I did that to this individual because he had a serious reputation of stabbing people up, sneaking up on them, and stuff like that. And I said to myself, I'm gonna get him first. I'm not gonna wait on him to, come and do me no harm. I'm gonna get him first. So, but out of my whole 22 years, those were the 3 instances. You know what I mean? 2 at Pollock and 1 in California. But that's how I ended up getting to the special management unit in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania.
I want to ask you first. I want to talk about the stabbing, right? The other one where you say, "Man, I'm gonna get him before he gets me." Where was this guy from?
In Pollock. Are you talking about? Oh no, this was in California. He was from Asheville, North Carolina.
Not that guy. I'm talking about the other stabbing at Pollock, where you had to stab the guy first.
Oh, man, most of the time it be your homeboys, man. And you know what I'm saying? He was from North Carolina too, man. And like I said, we run together. And he felt like, he was disrespectful, and he felt like he wasn't respecting the authority that I had. Sometimes people want to be you. They want your position, and they going to come at you and try to challenge you, for your position, and he should have knew I wasn't gonna go for it, my reputation, but that's how that happened, man. And he ended up in a wheelchair. The SIS, you familiar with the SISs? And I stabbed him up like 6 times, and so the SIS, they come to my door, I'm in lockup. And he like, well, Rice, it's my real name, Rice. He said, Rice, man, he said, man, you finally done graduated, man. He said, you got your body on your hand now, man. Pack your stuff up. You're going down around the corner to the ADX range. Jesus. I said, ADX? I said, this punk ass dude done died on me, man, for real. So, but he left. He left, man. And then I'm talking to my celly. I'm like, man, I said, this dude done died on me, man. So now I'm pacing the floor like, damn, I'm really finna get stuck in prison now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now, when he come back down the range, he come back down the hallway, he like, nah, Rice, man, you all right, man. We had to revive him though. He died on the table only one time, man, but we revived him, man. But he should be at the hospital tomorrow.
Let me ask you this. I don't want to. I don't really want to interrupt you. I mean, I guess I do. So I apologize, but I want to ask you this, and we'll get back to what you were saying. When the SIS guy comes down there, he's talking to you like that. Tell the people how they are. It's like they're nonchalant. They don't care that the guy almost died. They don't care about you maybe getting a life sentence. They just talk to you nonchalant. Hey, what's up, man? Right?
Yeah. They don't care, man. Like your life means 0. You're just a number, man. You're just a federal inmate with a number, man. That they come to work and they do their job. Sometimes they overdo their job, and they have their rats back there that tell them stuff. You know what I mean? But they don't care about your life back there. It doesn't. Your life doesn't amount to anything. It's like you lost everything. All of your rights of being treated like a real human being goes out the door once you step foot inside a federal penitentiary. It's gone.